Right now, as you are watching this, a security alliance that has kept the Western world together for over 80 years is cracking in real time. Not quietly, not behind closed doors, out in the open, on the record. President Donald Trump has gone public. He has named them. He has said in his own words that he asked about 7 American allies to stand with the United States in the Iran conflict. 7 allies, nations the United States has bled for, nations whose soil American soldiers have defended, and every single one of them said no. Think about that. The Strait of Hormuz, arguably the most strategically critical waterway on the planet. The United States asked its allies to help secure it, and the response that came back was for words that are now echoing across every military briefing room from Washington to Brussels. This is not our war, and what Trump said next, what he did next, is the part that nobody is fully talking about, because this is no longer just about Iran. This is about whether the most powerful military alliance in human history still means anything at all. Nobody saw this coming, or did they? Hit subscribe right now, not for me, for yourself. Because what is happening between the United States and its NATO allies is the biggest rupture in Western alliance politics since the Suez Crisis of 1956, and most people watching the news right now do not fully understand what has broken, what it means, or where it leads. We are going to fix that in the next 12 minutes. Before I tell you what Trump said in the last 72 hours, and I promise you, it is extraordinary, you need to understand what was broken here, and why the breaking of it feels so personal. After World War II, the United States made a commitment. It was not a suggestion. It was a covenant. Through NATO, America pledged its military, its treasury, and ultimately its soldiers to the collective defense of Europe and its allies. Article 5, the doctrine that an attack on one member is an attack on all, became the bedrock of Western civilization's survival. The cornerstone, the whole structure rested on it. For 80 years that covenant held. And America paid for it, deeply, in money and in blood. Over 20 years in Afghanistan alone, American forces fought and died alongside those same allies. The UK was there, France was there, Germany was there, Canada was there, not on the sidelines, in the field, side by side. Trump himself recently pointed to this, noting that NATO allies stayed a little back on the front lines while American troops led the charge. Hold that in your mind. Now fast forward to March 2026. America is at war with Iran, and President Trump reaches out to his partners, the nations whose defense budgets, whose trade relationships, whose very security architectures were built with American backing, and he asks them for one thing: send warships, help us secure the Strait of Hormuz. 7 countries. He asked about 7. The UK said no, France said no, Germany said no, Canada said no, Japan said no, Spain said no, Australia said no, not privately, publicly. That is not just a diplomatic rebuff, that is a message, and the message landed exactly the way you would expect it to, because Trump did not stay silent. He answered back, and what he said next changed everything. Now, here is where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, because the refusals did not just come quietly through back channels, in diplomatic whispers. They came loud, and each one escalated further than the last, and I promise you each one is more stunning than the previous. Start with Spain. Spain, a NATO member, a country that shares 2 jointly operated U.S. military bases on its soil, Rota, and bases that exist specifically because of American investment and American presence. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced that the United States was not using and would not be using those bases for operations against Iran. He stood at a podium and said, according to Reuters, that Trump cannot play Russian roulette with the destiny of millions. He called Spain's refusal a matter of sovereignty. Trump responded by threatening to cut off all trade with Spain, just like that. Decades of alliance, threatened trade sanctions over a base denial. That's it. Then comes France. President Emmanuel Macron, the man who has styled himself as Europe's great unifier, issued a statement that was blunt to the point of being surgical. According to Reuters, France declared, "We are not party to the conflict." 5 words. Macron did not hedge. He did not leave diplomatic room. He closed the door, publicly. Then Germany. Germany echoed France's position almost word for word. German officials stated that this conflict was not a NATO operation, that NATO's founding Article 5 was never triggered and therefore no obligation existed. Germany, the nation whose reunification and post-war recovery was made possible by the American security umbrella, stood down. And then Japan. Japan, America's most significant strategic partner in the entire Indo-Pacific, a country that hosts tens of thousands of U.S. troops. According to AP News reporting, Japan was among the countries approached by Trump to join a coalition to police the Strait of Hormuz. Japan declined, South Korea declined, Australia Declined. Canada, America's immediate northern neighbor, a Five Eyes intelligence partner, declined. 7 countries. 7 refusals, not slowly, not ambiguously, loudly, on the record. Publicly, the cascade was complete, and it had only one place left to go. And then there is Donald Trump himself. And what he did is the single most extraordinary thing you will hear today. Because on March 26, 2026, just days ago, Trump did not simply grumble in private. He did not send a quiet diplomatic note. According to Bloomberg, Trump publicly assailed NATO and said on the record that the United States would remember how its allies responded. He went further. He told reporters the U.S. needs nothing from NATO. He called NATO's refusal to cooperate a test and implied, according to reporting by Politico, that NATO's future now depended on how this moment was ultimately judged. Trump reportedly declared that he was considering whether the United States should leave NATO entirely. Think about what that means. Not a threat made in a campaign rally, not a tweet fired off at midnight, a sitting American president in the middle of an active shooting war, openly questioning the continued membership of the United States in the security alliance that has defined the Western world since 1949. The alliance that stopped the Soviet Union, the alliance that secured Europe's democracy, the alliance that was, for 80 years, considered absolutely irreversible. He called it a very foolish mistake. He said the U.S. will remember. And then he launched an all-caps social media rebuke at NATO that left nothing to interpretation. An American president threatening to walk out of NATO in real time during a war. That's it. After everything you just heard, after 7 allies publicly refused to stand with the United States during an active military conflict, do you still believe the NATO alliance is strong enough to survive another 4 years of this? Yes or no? Tell me in the comments right now, because I think people on both sides of this have a powerful argument, and I want to hear from every single person watching this video. Now here is why this is not just a geopolitical story for foreign policy analysts. This is coming directly into your life, right now. The Strait of Hormuz is the single choke point through which approximately 20% of the entire world's oil supply flows every day. According to AP News, the conflict in and around that waterway has already introduced significant volatility into global energy markets. Oil prices have spiked in response to the ongoing war. When oil prices spike, gas prices spike. When gas prices spike, shipping costs spike. When shipping costs spike, the price of everything you buy goes up. Your grocery bill, your utility bill, your commute, your rent, because landlords factor energy costs into operating expenses. And now that America's allies have fractured from the coalition meant to stabilize that strait, the uncertainty is not going away anytime soon. If anything, it is deepening, because without allied warships patrolling that waterway alongside U.S. forces, the risk of prolonged disruption is real, measurable, and immediate. This is not a distant problem, it is already at your door. If you believe this story needs to reach more people who are not seeing it covered, this clearly hit the like button right now. This is not about a number on a screen. This is about making sure the right people understand what is actually happening to the alliances that underpin global stability. Hit it. Now, I want to be fair about something. There is a legitimate counter-argument here. Europe's position has a logic to it. This was not a NATO-triggered conflict under Article 5. The United States and Israel launched these strikes without prior consultation with most alliance members. European leaders argue with some factual grounding that they were not obligated to join a war they were not consulted on. That is fair, that is accurate. But here is the reality that crushes that counter-argument flat. Trump is not just asking for military support. He is asking whether the promise of alliance, the bedrock understanding that allies stand together, is conditional, and 7 countries simultaneously answered that it is. Spain closed its bases, France closed its door. Germany echoed France, Japan, Canada, Australia, Norway, and the UK all declined the warship request. The moves are irreversible, the words are on the record, the fractures are structural. The era of unconditional Western alliance is over. The architecture built in 1949 is bending under the weight of 2026. History does not wait, and it is not waiting now. If you want to understand how we got here, how America launched the 12-day war, how the US and Israel struck Iran's nuclear program, and what that moment triggered, watch the video on your screen right now. It is the first chapter. This is the second. This is our alliance, our security, our future. The decisions being made right now in Washington, in Brussels, in Tehran will shape the next 50 years. The choice is ours. Stay sharp, stay informed. I will see you in the next.